Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome to another live session with the Hype Magazine. I'm your editor-in-chief, Jerry Doby, and today, I have the distinct honor of talking with His Majesty, Nana Amoako Yiadom Gyata. He is the Fihankrahene of the Agogo traditional area, Asante, Akim, North Ghana. And we're here today to speak about the things that are going on, the programs that they got going on, and how he is representing the continent. Thanks for being with us, sir.
Oh, thank you. I'll say it in Twi midase pa. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. It's an honor to be with you, and thank you so much for taking the time with us.
Oh, no worries, no worries. It's my honor to be able to see each other again. If you might want to give a little background of how we know each other, but it's always good to see family.
Okay, thank you. Can I call you Nana for short? Is that appropriate?
That is appropriate.
Okay. All right, Nana. So from the inside looking out, let's talk about Nana Amoako Yiadom Gyata and how you came to your position. You were born in Ghana and came home.
Yes, it's a complicated story, if I could put it that way, because I'll make it brief. I was born, found out that, always been interested in our culture. I'm a lifetime member. My parents were lifetime members of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. So like some people shorten and say Garveyites, and was raised that way and raised in DC, but always felt, because my parents always had a lot of elders around, ones that probably some familiar with by names: Queen Mother Moore, Baba Hannibal, Ben Yokonen, the doctor, our ancestor, just to name a few. And it really struck me after my father's ascension. We don't say death, transition into ancestralhood. Some of the things that I was discovering, because it was really never talked about, because I was born in the Agogo Presbyterian Hospital, bought here, but during the 60s, it was easy to change a name. It was easy to get a document done, and so I had an American birth certificate, but in a trunk downstairs, I was finding some other documents after he transitioned. And I started getting really curious, found out, let's breeze past a lot, found out that I'm a part of the Asuna Kotoko, or in the Agogo, which is just to mean the royal family there, and that I actually come because there's two lines in all African countries around. There's a normal line, just like a family, and then there's a royal lineage that is in that family. That's how we see some family members ascending to the thrones of leadership, male or female, because they're queens, or queen mothers and queens, and then chiefs or kings. And found out that I was a part of that royal bloodline after years of dealing with other royals, which you well know. I guess being in preparation for that, didn't even know I was actually a royal. And so that's how that developed into going in, everybody welcoming my clan, which is the Asuna clan, which is a white-breasted crow. And they accepted me because they knew the language. I found out my mother had an Akan name, and it's on the birth certificate. And then presented to what we'll say is the paramount king there in the Agogo, which we call Omahene, his name, and greetings. Let me back up here because I have to be official. Greetings to everyone and you from Nana Kwame Akoko Sapang, the paramount king of the Agogo traditional area in Asante, Akim North. And so he welcomed me in. Then this historic title was bestowed upon me, and I was enthroned with it, called the Fihankrahene, and other things that led to those things. So that in brief is the story.
Wow. Okay, but it's a beautiful story, going home and finding out that you were part of this royal lineage and great royal tradition, which of course, after us being abducted by
kidnapped and bamboozled and hoodwinked. Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy because now there's a movement here in Texas to call it, instead of slavery, forced relocation. And
yes, don't get me started. That's another interview. I'm actually fighting with another fine gentleman who has a Netflix special. And because I don't want to mention his name, but if you go on there, We Are People, you'll see it. I can say the name, and very astute attorney. And he gives a forced documentary about the kidnapping, the Jim Crow, the I'm going to use two terms, the white code and the black code. And he brings it together to highlight the kidnapping, and even so, I'll go here. A lot of people don't like me saying that, the willingness to sell off people for other means too. It's in illegal jurisprudence. They call a crime or a civil tort when two people are parties to the same action, where it's equal blame. They call it gross negligence. It happened for their racism, but it also happened for our greed and desire and our egos as a people too. So we can't blame the entirety, because it takes two to tango. Is that the colloquialism? So we played a part in it because they had scouts as well that kidnapped us. My godson, who you just received his book, great aunt, who was a princess, was snatched in the groves from her land, and in his town in Nigeria, they still have a observance of mourning for that, because a lot of them got snatched from that area and then taken to, I'll call it the true trail of tears, and gone through the gate of no return, or the door of no return, whatever someone wants to call it.
Okay. All right. So what was the defining moment that made you actually physically go home and interact?
I've always been traveling, as you well know.
Yes.
Back and forth to Africa, dealt with the Omakoma, His Royal Majesty Solomon Guru II in Uganda, and then past dealings with an Ekuapim with Princess Erica and the royal family there of Banmu. So the interest in going home came from being a Garveyite, because that is home. But the interest, when I found the documents, and I never really talked about it to anybody, you've known me for a couple of years, because sometimes there's a lot of myth and sometimes there's a lot of truth in myth and vice versa, you know. And my pursuit, and then going through rigorous, not of these other DNA companies that are out now, and there's some good ones, but mine was medical DNA, not on the side where we see on the internet, and great companies, but I didn't do it that way. And finding out, it was just a yearning in my soul. I think we as a people, as an African people, and I'll put a K in it instead of just a C, have a burning desire to discover who we are and what we're good at. And if you don't know where you come from or your lineage, there's something missing. And that's why we see a lot of trouble today defining who we are religiously versus the spiritual people. Entering, let's use the entertainment industry. There's a desire, innate desire for that longing for attention and approval. And that's not in a bad way or narcissistic way. I'm not talking about the psychiatry of it. I'm talking about we want to find in, and we have a talent. And when we give that talent out, it gives us enthusiasm. That's why there's this natural high getting on the stage, or performing, or speaking, or uttering words, or preaching. I'll use sermons or whatever. And that desire has always been in me to find out, because I remember when I was, and I was told this, I remember it because I have an eidetic memory, but being told it is another thing, because as a child and you grow up, you say, did I really do that? But when people tell you that I said this to them, they say, what do you want to be when you grow up? An astronaut, an architect, and a football player. Well, I was an agent with CFL. I have co-flown in. I didn't fly it, F-15 jet, and I worked for a civil engineering firm during summers. So kind of did those. But they said, well, what do you want to do? And I remember this, like I'm talking to you. I said, I want to be an inspiration to people that inspire other people. That innate yearning was always in me. So how do we do that? We uplift our culture. To me, okay, this is a non-Amoako thing. We uplift our culture. We share things that may be correct, and hopefully share things that can add a correction. So the desire to me to go home was, you can't speak about, especially in Ghana, where I'm from, you can't talk about a thing unless you've witnessed a thing. How can a single man ever tell you how to be married?
There it is.
You can't do it. And I'll be funny. How can a pimp tell you how to pimp? Unless you Iceberg Slim. Okay, go back to an old novel there, just to throw that in. I mean, you have to have expertise. How can someone tell us about how to fight for justice if you don't understand Ida B. Wells? You can't do it.
Funny that you brought up the Donald Goines reference, Iceberg Slim, and you know, we have some amazing stories, street stories. But speaking of street stories, some of those traditions that, like not splitting the pole, came from, you know, our ancestors.
Yes.
And it's not something that's funny, but there's a story behind it. And I believe that you related it to me about on slave times, they would tell the woman to go one way and tell the man to go the other way, and you're going to meet up together. And they never did. They were sold off separately.
Right.
So, and then, you know, keeping, like the great Shaka, keeping the minds of your subservient people confused and subjugated to your will is pimping.
Exactly what it is. It's Willie lynching at its ultimate level.
Right.
Because if you look at, which was based upon writings, and then the name is a myth, Willie Lynch, but the writings came from a minister of the gospel. And because that was like his nom de plume or pseudonym, you know, for himself, to where it wouldn't be known that he was writing. But you can go back to his writings, you trace it, and you will actually find this Presbyterian minister that was writing this as how to keep people enthralled. And he used the same methodologies in sermonizing. A lot of people don't realize that there were two separate Bibles at one point. There was the what we'll call the Negro Bible, and then there was the Bible. You know, whoever authorized or whatever, that's not what we're talking about. But there were two separate Bibles, and they took out pages or made our people that represented us and looked like us preach a certain gospel that we were accursed by Ham, and so we needed to be slaves, or we you know, the preponderance of being pagans and different things like that. Like you alluded to, splitting the pole. Well, that goes all the way back through Voodoo, which is Voodoo just means spirit, and then to Cometian metaphysics. I'll use that term because Cometian science and spirituality is metaphysics. If you look at the book of the coming forth by day and by night, they renamed it the Book of the Dead because they wanted us to think it dealt with death. See, so we got tricked and bamboozled there.
Yeah.
But when you wake up in the morning, there's the mock confession. I will not. And when you go to bed, before you go to bed, then you switch the I will to I have not. So those are utterances and confessions to prayer, to the universe, to our ancestors, to know that we are walk circumspect all day long. So that splitting the pole was, yes, a part of that slavery thing, because they say, oh, if you split it, you're not going to come back together again. But it also deals with splitting the pole means that you're not unified. So when you split the pole, that means now you're walking in two different directions. And there's an Ndinkra, which is Ndinkra symbols are all over Africa. But the Ndinkras are just what we'll call neturs in the ancient Comedian tongue, but we'll say hieroglyphs. To us in West Africa, we'll say Ndinkra, and there's a crocodile over a crocodile. And people say, oh, the stomachs are one. That's because if you eat, I eat. If I split from you, that means you're going to go hungry, or one of us are going to go hungry, and we're not a village. We're not in the tree. It's called the Busawa, or a Busawa Pa is the larger community. And anything that's divided cannot stand. See where that scripture came from? So
yeah, I'm with it. Okay. One of the things that you do is educate, obviously, here, the diaspora here in America. Could you delineate for me some of your responsibilities being the representative here to bridge the gap between the continent?
Okay. The first part of the education that I always do, my responsibility when I was sworn in, was to make sure that they know that they are African. If you watch the YouTube video, Omahene spoke in English, and he told them, it was so funny. He said, "No, I'm gonna speak in English first." And then he went into Twi, and he said the African people on both sides forget about us. He says there's people in Atlanta, Georgia. He said Atlanta, that they don't know us because they have forgotten us. And you can be European or Indo-European or Caucasoid minded, nothing against humanity, but I'm using those terms, and realize that you have forgotten about them. And really, we've forgotten about them, and they don't even know us, because after generations go on, and the kidnapping is just like Elizabeth Smart. Her family kind of remembered her, and I remember one of her family members because she was just around the corner. I remember one of her family said, I feel guilty now because my life went on and I didn't remember her. Well, that's the way the African people, because they're not taught. And this is not against my Ghanaian family members or any of my African family members, because we're all one blood. Doesn't matter what country you come from on the continent, which is now 55 countries after last week. They don't teach certain things. They don't teach about our history. You tell them about the Republic of New Africa. They've never heard of that. And Baba Obadele. They've never heard of that. They've never heard about Ida B. Wells, because they learn about the magnificence of where they're at, if barely, because they don't sometimes hear the full stories. They may know about, and let's take Ghana, Ya Asante Wa, great queen warrior who hid the golden stool. The British couldn't find it, and it kept the morale up in the Asante Confederacy. They learn about that. They learn enough about Kwame Nkrumah, just enough. So they go back to history, they breeze by a little bit, put in a little bit here, but then they don't know about Shirley Chisholm. They don't know about Stokely Carmichael. They don't know, and therefore they think we're rich here, because they don't realize that our people were hosed and bit by dogs. And, our ancestor, was clubbed on the bridge in Selma, and he's just recently passed not too long ago. They don't know about that. And so that's a part of my responsibility, is to teach that. Now, here, that's the diaspora, because those are the people living there. Now, the historical diaspora, those of us living here, us American Africans. A lot of people say African Americans. No, we live in America and we're African. Okay. I try to put that in our subconscious mind and our neuroplastic. On a neuroplasticity, it has to delve in, because if you put like American, yeah, I live here, but I'm African, instead of African living in America, because you may not have been born there, but you were born here and you're African. See, that's how I deal with the historical diaspora. And so trying to bridge the gap is, we see a lot of YouTube videos now, which are okay. And they're like, go buy property. This is how you start a business in Africa. Hey, that's great. But you have to understand the language, the nuances. It takes, me as royal, let me see, on average, it takes about 7.5 minutes for a greeting to go by. And that's just from their side to me.
Oh my Lord.
Hello, Nana. I'm saying this in English. I will say some of it in Twi. I'll go back and say some of it in Twi. They say, hello, Nana. Good morning. Good afternoon. Please, how are you? And then I had to reply. Please, how is your royal household? I have to reply. And they may name parts of my lineage. Please, how is Nana Badu? And please, how is Nana Kwaku? And I'm naming people that are in my clan that are higher than me, because they're my elders.
Right.
In Twi, it'll be like, depending on what time of the day, it'll be like, Maha, Nana, Wahota Sen, and then I have to go, Mihuye. And then it goes on for a little while. and if you don't speak, especially me, they can run to a palace, because I have a palace in the Google. I have like the palace here in Louisiana. I have a palace in Google proper. And if I don't speak, I can get like, they'll think you're rude, but as a royal, they'll start telling other royals about me, and then to get back to my paramount king, and I'll get a tribunal. It's like, why are you rude to our people? That's how serious it is, and they won't want to deal with you anymore. So it's a lot of customs and traditions, like you said, splitting the pole, um, spiritual traditions. Recently on Sunday, and I think I've told you about that in a different conversation that we were having, was a Day, which is a high honoring day for our ancestors. We make sure we pour libations. Yes, there's some sacrifice made, depending, but we have as royals what we call a stool room. Each of those stools, a predecessor before us that we may have been named after, has a blackened stool. It's about this big. And we pour libations on it, and we pray, and we give reverence and thankfulness that we are alive because of them. And we remember that. That's a high day. But every day, we pour libations, because it's a part of our prayer. I'll use the term loosely because it's been bastardized, but ritual. Okay. It's something, because once you get into the rhythm of the universe, then the universe is in rhythm with you. So that's another part of the spiritual tradition as well that I'm responsible for. And then anyone that wants to return home, we have a recognized state called Abibimam Nkuranhyekuromhene. I will explain that out of tree. It means African or Africa encouragement, Nkuranhye, encouragement, area, village, or town, whatever you want to call it. It's in the Americas. So in that, under that, especially Ghana, USA Traditional Cultural Council, are queen mothers and some chiefs that are directly up under me here in the Americas. Back home, see, here I'm an Omahene. I'm a paramount king. Back home, I'm a divisional chief. So we think of, I'll give it to you this way, and these are part of those lessons that I give. The Asante Hene, who's our ultimate, now there's different confederacies, but I'm Asante. Okay, so the Asante Hene Otumfo Ese Tutu II is a 5-star general. Then my paramount king would be a 4-star general.
Okay.
Up under my paramount king, here I fall. I'm a divisional chief. I'm a 3-star general. Up under me is another level of chiefs and another level of chiefs. Wow. So they go down in rank in the militaristic, because that's what it was. It was certain names meant a certain thing, like the right flank and the this flank. Tufuhene was warlord, and Nifuhene means right flank. So that actually my uncle, my royal uncle, Nana Badu, which I mentioned his name, is my Asunahene. He's the head of the Asuna royal clan in Agogo. Then I have a head under him, which is called the Abusuapine. Well, my Asunahene, that's why I said I had 3 stools. My Asunahene delegated me to be responsible over the Americas. So I'm now Asunahene here. So I have 3 royal stools, which is more work, but it's more education. And these are some of the things I have to do and help people with understand the nuances of how the government works. Because you just can't don't go. And I warn people, if you're watching this, get in touch with, I'll call you Dr. Dobe. Get in touch.
I'm looking forward to that. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen.
Hey, Dr. Dobe has to get you in touch with me, because if you buy property without people that know how the government works, you're going to cuss somebody out or you're going to get scammed. Either one of those two. Because what is done in Ghana or Africa, period, is a slow snail roll. And it encounters customary things and greeting. Because once you if you come in there thinking like the Europeans, like they've ingrained in us, they're going to turn against you and try to get more money out of you, because they automatically think we over here making it. Right. They see Cardi up there, doing this and, and all that, and Rick and the people, and they think that's every African-American is rolling in the cheddar like that. And I tell them no, because I have to educate them, because the dollar against the Ghana Cedi and Peswa, which is like cents, is totally different. Right now, and inflation is bad over there, people. Inflation is bad. They're not doing good. The teachers are actually on strike now, and I'll get to that probably in another question you might ask me, I think, because you said something about programs, so I'll get to that. And water doesn't run in every village. Don't think, and toilets are in like what we'll call outhouses, for those of you who know that term. And the children are suffering, the people are suffering, but not in Accra and Kumasi. But I'll tell you the caveat in Accra. And I know that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who I deal with on a daily level, are probably going to go when I say this, but when it rains, it floods. It floods there. It will engulf your car because of it's a landlocked at the northern, but sea locked right there at the south.
Okay.
So the drainage systems, Ghana is just 76 years old. It's not like the Americas, and they had a whole lot of, things like that. So there's a lot of disparagement there. And so I try to educate people, when you go to Ghana, the power grid is not like America. Air conditioner doesn't exist in every place. You're going to have to rough it and tough it. But there's a reward to that, because it helps you understand, one, how blessed you are. Two, it strips you down to where now you become primordial. You start to think like our ancestors, because when they were on the plantations, our ancestors, and some that weren't, they didn't have running water. They didn't have a fan. They had straw floors. You could probably look through them with the planks. They didn't have that. They had to go down to the creek, as they say, and get running water. They would serve scraps of food, not the best of food, but we made it. And so these are part of the educational things. And with the young people, I refer to them, to our ancestor Carter G. Woodson, to start to educate their mind out of the European system. And then we go to our ancestor, Dr. Henry Clark, prolific man, and Rashida Renoku. I don't want to get emotional. I'm missing my ancestor, and people like that, and try to get them the education, because I noticed that people read a lot of books, but they don't sit at the feet of elders. Okay. Programs. I had a school named after me in Kutawase, which is in the Asante Akim North, and it's fun to see those 225 children. And we raised enough money to paint the school. It had been left in disarray by the Presbyterian missionaries. I'm not even gonna go to that story, not time left. And then the Ministry of Education, the rural villages, they don't have enough. They don't have enough. So it was probably 30 or more years the school wasn't painted. Those kids have run around. Some of the families, it's agrarian-based community, most of them, like most rural villages, their family can't afford uniforms. To us, to them, that's a lot of money for a uniform. To us, it's $6.50. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
We could paint a whole school for about $600. To them, it's $5,000.
My.
Yes. And we forget, if we're going to do the battle here, we have to do the battle there, because that's the way it's congruent with each other. And that's a part of my education. Bring both hemispheres, because if you're just thinking from the left, then you're going to be this. If you're thinking from the right, you're going to be this. You bring both hemispheres of our culture together, and then we can uplift one another. That's why they gun us down here, because we don't remember some of our culture.
We are running short on time, but with your consent, Your Majesty, I would love to have you back to do another segment.
Please.
And because I want to talk about the school again, that had sat dormant for so long. I remember seeing pictures early on several years ago. The walls weren't up and the paint was, not there. It was in disarray. It had been neglected, like you said, by the missionaries, who we won't go there today.
Right. But missionized our people into becoming more oriented to them than their own people. How about that?
Yeah. So in America also, you are the dean of an esteemed university, Logos University.
Yes.
I'm trying to get my doctorate, y'all. Hold up.
Yes. And I always give a fist up to Dr. Gabriel Lopez, who's the chairman of Unilogos, because it was founded in Brazil. And so I head up the Americas, now head up all of Africa. And how did they put it? Like the ambassador person to China, which man. But but in America, yes, I'm the rector general or something or whatever he calls me. But it's just a privilege because I really haven't promoted it as much as in America. Just really kept it quiet. I
Ah,
know.
I'm sorry if I exposed.
No. Dr. Jamila Wilkerson, the founder and publisher of The Height, has an honorary doctorate from there. And we always uplift her, especially in Brazil. Her name is always mentioned. We talk about The Hype magazine all the time because we keep it on our website so people can see the ties in that we have other things going on because we do a vast amount of journalistic teaching as well in Brazil.
Right.
There's a lot, and so the university does have, from my end, we have a bachelor, master's, and a doctorate in Pan-African Studies.
Ah,
We also, in conjunction with a company that I have here
so
with,
sorry.
that's okay, my queen, Nana Bina Kunada Yadom, Queen Mother here, called Kansu LLC. Yes, Kansu. It's named after the Egyptian goddess. And we do behavioral health consulting and other things that help our community. And so I help people get certified in conflict resolution and mediation because I'm a certified trainer. And so that falls and gives credits underneath Unilogos as well. Just recently, not too long ago, held a session within Cobra, which works with reparations to some of its people, and still had to get them their certificate. It was a faux pas that went on. I need their names to get them their certificates. They weren't certified, but they went through a preliminary 8-hour course with me, like we're talking now on Zoom. And if anybody needs mediation, I can be reached if it's family, business, or whatever for that, because I do it very traditionally instead of versus like a lawyer. Although I do have law degree, I'm not a part of anybody's America's bar. I don't do that. But Unilogos is thriving. It is very big. If anybody looks on social media, you'll see it a lot in Portuguese. Don't worry, I teach in English. I will not speak in well, I could Swahili or Chui or Iwe or something like that, but it's in English. There's short courses and long courses. It's accredited through ASIC. I always get that mixed up with the alphabetics, but yeah, it's great. I have a fun time. I actually have a couple of students in Ghana that are working on advanced degrees in teaching. And so it's a great way. And they speak English too. Not everybody speaks Twi, but there's a majority that does in other languages in Ghana. But yeah, it's exciting to be a part of this reclamation and reconstitution of our minds, and get out of this matrix in our thought patterns.
Okay.
You know,
Can we give them information on how to
get in touch with you?
You have the YouTube channel.
Yes, the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is very easy. Just go to Ghana USA Traditional and Cultural Council in your YouTube. You'll see my face or some other faces. The website is very easy. All you do is put in Ghana USA Diaspora.org. So Ghana, GHANA USA. If you live here, you know how to spell that. Diaspora, DIAS is in Sam, P is in Paul, ORA.org. And you can see our website. We need to do better work on it. It's just the time that hasn't allowed. I do have a chief of staff and teaching her how to get in that peripheral and things like that. But they can get in touch with us that way. I guess our next session, some people may say, well, how can I donate to something? And just to mention it, we don't have to give it out now. The Holy African Orthodox Church, which was founded under Marcus Garvey, is one of the oldest 501c3s in this country. It's a tax write-off. There's a PayPal for it. And because we didn't do the 501c3 paperwork yet, the church allows for it to be a full tax write-off because it's a religious mission to Africa, because it's African orthodoxy or African truth. That's all that orthodoxy means. It's not a religion and you got to be a part of this to do this. No, it's about our people It's not about running around a pew. It's about our people. That's one of the greatest divisive things they've given us. And I'm looking at our time, so I won't go over with you, Dr. Doe. One of the greatest divisions is religion now. We see a lot of religion instead of culture. And I don't care whether you're Yorubian and practice Ifa, Afa, whatever you practice, Hebrew, Israelite, more, you're African. You're not a religion, you're a people. And the people have different various viewpoints and vantage points on their spiritual journey that awakens them. And there is no incorrect way. There is just the way that the ancestors deal with you that will get you there quicker.
Amen. Amen and amen. We also have the Ghana Diaspora also has Instagram, so you can also see clips of things that are going on, activities, installments, and things like that. Could we have that, please?
It is Ghana USA T as in Tom CC Diaspora. If you put it in, you're actually going to see a logo that has my royal emblem on it, and you can't miss it. It's red. It has a dwa, which is our royal stool, and I think it might have a janiame, which is a symbol for none but God, and akofina, which is a sword. And you'll actually see it on there. I think there's some pictures of probably me in there. I kind of still stay away from the camera. I get fussed at by royals. It's like, people need to see you. No, they need to see what I do. They don't need to see me. But that's just a part of it that I've had to get used to and kind of chagrin.
Okay.